someday. And the whole goal of that, and what we do in our business, is that we have a 40-week growth accelerator program where we systematically replace those 5 weaknesses with 5 soft skills. But I'm not going to talk so much about those as much as the weaknesses. And then if you're interested in the soft skills, we can talk about it. So the 5 main weaknesses that we've seen that entrepreneurs, small business owners have. Number 1 is a lack of clarity in their business. Now that shows up in several ways. Here's a couple of ways that lack of clarity shows up. If you have more than one business card, you have lack of clarity. Right? So when you sit there and you say, well, I'm a financial advisor, but I'm also a broker, that's a great example of lack of clarity, right? It's like, what the hell are you? Who are you? I went to a guy, I saw a guy at a networking event who told me he was a professional speaker, and then I went to his Facebook page, and he was doing sex therapy, and then he also talked about a dating site. I'm like, what the hell does this guy do, right? It's really bizarre lack of clarity. So if you have multiple business cards, you have lack of clarity. If you say anything like when somebody says, what do you do? If you say anything like, well, it's kind of hard to explain. That's a red flag right there. Or if you say, well, I wear several hats. All of those types of things are examples of lack of clarity. It is shocking when I go to networking events, business meetings, and everybody has an opportunity to have a 15-second commercial or a 1-minute commercial, how most people just utterly blow it. And they don't think anything of it. They don't realize how they've just left so much money on the table because they weren't clear with what it is that they do. And for some people, it's being too technical. And then you look at somebody like Chris, and he just converts it to human language. It's beautiful. What I find that with most entrepreneurs is they try to get too artistic, too technical, or too impressive when you really should just speak like a normal human being in your pitch, and it makes it a lot more clear. So that lack of clarity can be a real big thing, because what happens is when you have lack of clarity, it's like having a bug light without the light on. You're not going to attract the right type of people. The more clear you are, the brighter that light's going to shine, and the easier you're going to be able to attract the exact right type of clientele that you want. That's the first problem that most people have. The second one kind of goes hand in hand with lack of clarity, and that's lack of credibility. So a lot of business owners might even have a lot of clarity. They might say, I only work with mommies, and I help them before they give birth, when they're giving birth, and after they give birth. But if they have only done it for 3 weeks, there's no credibility there, right? So it's a lack of credibility issue. You could have really clear clarity, and without the credibility, you're going to have a hard time getting the business. You could also have a lot of credibility and lack of clarity, and then everybody's just going to want to talk to you, and you're going to be confused in the sea. Like you got all these leads, but you don't know what to do with them. Think of this. Think of the clarity in your business as the sharpness of the blade. And that clarity cuts through all of the fluff. It cuts through all of the people that you don't want to work with. You know the whole Pareto principle of 80-20, which I don't even believe anymore. It's probably more like 95-5 or 99-1. You know, if you're in that 80 to 95 to 99, you're spending all the time there, it's probably because of a lack of clarity. The more clear you are, the more you want people to go, I don't qualify, I'm out. Because then you don't have to waste your time with them, right? Or they'll go, I know somebody who qualifies, going to put them in touch with you. So think of the clarity as the sharpness of the blade. Think of the credibility as the weight of the blade. You could have a really sharp knife or a sharp sword, but if it's a little tiny, flimsy thing, it's just going to break as soon as it gets swacked. But if you have a real nice big broadsword, but it's really sharp, this is not a phallic conversation. I'm just slapping. I know he's looking there. But you really want to have that big broadsword with also the sharpness to be able to cut through the clarity, but also have the weight behind it to really make the impact that you want to have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how does that credibility show up? Well, in business, credibility shows up like this: getting featured in an article. Writing for a news journal, a trade magazine. Credibility shows up getting an award, #1 wedding venue in St. Pete. Credibility instantly, right? So it could be a blog with 1 million+ subscribers. We've got some of our clients. We have one of our clients is a chiropractor, just broke 1 million views on YouTube. She has a lot of credibility now. When she wants to go into a company and talk about posture and efficiency, she can say, well, and I've also been featured and viewed over 1 million times on YouTube. It's a pretty cool thing. So trade journals, news magazines, ultimately writing your own book. The moment you write a book, you're seen as an industry expert in your business, and you never have to say you're an expert. And it doesn't matter if you're in the most boring business around that's got hundreds of books already written. The one book that hasn't been written yet is the book with your personal spin on things. So there's a book inside, you get it out as fast as you possibly can. The third component, are we doing okay? Is this?
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay, cool.
I didn't invite you back because you're no good. You know, you're not no good.
Thanks, man. The third element is lack of scalability. So lack of scalability shows up like this. If you take less than 2 months vacation a year, you've not scaled appropriately. We are the only country that thinks it's appropriate to have 1 week vacation a year.
You're right.
It's disgusting. You look at Australia, you look at the UK, they're 2 months of vacation, and they're happier, they're less stressed, they have, less health issues, and there's a reason for that. They don't let their business own them, they own their businesses, but they've also got a whole complete different work habit. But you want to scale your business in a way where you're unnecessary, where you don't have to be present. So it shows up if you never take vacations, you've not scaled your business appropriately. If you're a vital, necessary element in your business, you've not scaled it appropriately. And here's what most business owners do. I'll use an analogy. They build a one-story building, and they do it really, really well. And they go, man, I've done that. I'm going to build a second floor on top of it. So then they build another one-story building on top of the first one-story building. And then they go, man, I got 2 one-story buildings for a 2-story. That's kicking ass. I'm going to build a 3rd floor. And they build another one-story building on top of 2 one-story buildings. The infrastructure of a one-story building cannot handle the infrastructure of 3 or 4 more stories on them. And I speak from personal experience. My business, 7 years ago, we did $1.4 million in annual revenue. The next year, I did $85,000.
Ouch.
My whole business just imploded, just crushed, because I was building 1 floor at a time. When you want a 10-story building, you build a 10-story building from the very beginning. And that's a mentality. We've got one of our mentors in the UK, his name's Mike Harris. He's made 3 multi-billion-dollar companies, taken them all public and sold them, and he never, ever opens up a small business. What he does is he opens up a multi-billion-dollar industry. But it might be only doing small business revenues on that first year, but he has it built with that mentality that this is going to become a multi-billion-dollar company, so let's build it that way from the very beginning. So scalability is or lack of scalability is a big pain that a lot of people have. The fourth challenge that a lot of people have is invisibility. This is probably one of the biggest ones for small business owners. There's nothing, in my opinion, more shameful than having the world's best product and the world's best service and nobody knows who you are. It's very painful. In our business, we talk about 3 types of entrepreneurs. We have newbies, worker bees, and key people of influence. A newbie is that person that just gets their certificate, they just get their Series 7, they just get their whatever approval, they open up their business, and they're just so excited to run the business. They don't even care about profit. They just want to get out and expose their business to as many people as they can. And that lasts for about 8 to 12 months. And then they go, crap, I've got bills that I've got to pay. And they get promoted into the worker bee mentality, which is where most entrepreneurs stay for their whole life. And that worker bee mentality is where they haven't scaled it, nobody knows who they are, they have no credibility, and they have to go out and chase the leads, and they're always at the networking events, and they're always going around like this, and they're always buying leads, lists, and all that kind of stuff, and they have to work really hard at it. And the moment you start to scale your business appropriately, where you can act, like a great question to ask yourself is, how can I make myself redundant? And you should always be asking yourself that question as a business owner, because if you aren't redundant, you'll never be able to go on vacation. If we got time, I'll give you some strategies and tips on how to make that as well. That's the fourth component, is just invisibility. The fifth component, and the fifth mistake that we see most business owners make, is the self-made mentality. The notion of self-made millionaire is like the smile on a dolphin. It doesn't mean they're happy. That's just the way they're built, okay? It's a big lie, all right? There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There never has been. There never will be. In order for you to make $1 million and have $1 million in net worth, you have to have a team of people. Even if you're only one employee or one person, you got a team. You got an accountant. You got an attorney. You got a lot of people in your business. And this whole notion of I want to own my business and I want to be the owner doesn't work today. This whole, especially if you want to scale it and sell it. Like, here's the best advice I can give you is find a way to give as much equity in your business up as fast as possible. But just make sure you give it up to the right people. When by the time a business is ready to have an exit strategy where there's a buyout, usually the owner of that company owns about 15% of their business before it's a reputable. So why hold on to 100% all the time? You can go, I need to pull in some key players in this business. I'm willing to give them some of my equity. A great example is, one of my business partners is Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He didn't have to pay anything to get into my business because his name alone has opened up so many doors for me. Just me being able to say, yeah, I work with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and parade him out and bring him out every once in a while. But it's done wonders for my business, and it was the best investment that I've made. And he owns part of my company, and I'm happy to give it away.
And he gave you the longest one-time session ever.
Multiple times. Yeah, he's never given more than 2 hours of his time to any other business person in the world. And we had at Nova, 3-4 weeks ago, he was here for a full 8 hours.
You missed it.
Sharing with our entrepreneurs, with our clients, all of his experience.
Awesome.
And he does that 3 times a year for us in Tampa. He's going to do it 3 times a year for us in Houston. He's going to, we're keeping him as many times as we can. So, we're getting his work from him without him having to pay, but it's a great deal. 5 things. So, lack of clarity, lack of credibility, lack of scalability, invisibility, and the do-it-yourself mentality. 5 big issues in entrepreneurship.